Hello. Today we're going to take a look at punctuating dialogue so you never make a mistake again. Obviously, when you're punctuating dialogue, you need to use your quotation marks effectively. Let's take a little look at a conversation between Fred and Mary. Fred, it's my turn. Give me the iPad, Mary whined. Right now. No, Fred paused. Busy playing Angry Birds. Now, as you can see, only the words spoken are surrounded by the quotation marks and nothing else. The little tags that say who said what are not in the quotation marks. They are separate and they're separated off by commas as well. There's a comma at the end here, and then there's a comma after what was said by Mary. But you'll notice that the comma here is inside the quotation mark, whereas the comma here that separates off Mary whined is outside what she says next when she yells, right now. It's the same thing down here with Fred. You've got the comma that separates off what Fred started to say before he paused, and then the little indicator saying that Fred paused, separated off with a comma, and then the quotation marks that go around his exact words. And his exact words were busy playing Angry Birds. You need to remember to keep the punctuation marks inside the quotation marks. So in other words, if you're using specific punctuation like an exclamation point or a question mark to indicate the volume or the type of phrase that the person is saying, you need to keep those punctuation marks inside the quotation marks. Let's see if you can find the mistake. So help me, if you don't let me have a turn, I'll tell Mom, Mary screamed. Do you think she'll even care? Fred taunted. Now, you've got two bits of dialogue here. One is written correctly and one is not. Which one is correct? That's right. It's do you think she'll even care? Because the question mark here is inside the quotation mark. Whereas when Mary screams, the exclamation point there is outside the quotation mark. Now, an uninterrupted speech needs quotation marks only at the beginning and the end. We've just looked at examples of interrupted speech where the speech is interrupted by the tag that indicates who's saying what. But now we're going to look at two bits of dialogue that have uninterrupted speech with the tags at the end of what was said. You are such a greedy pig. Everyone says so. I'll bet you got an F in sharing when you were in preschool, Mary shouted. Oh, whatever. I have so many more friends than you do. Everyone at school says you smell, Fred stated. Now, which one of these is correct? That's right. It's the you are such a greedy pig, the thing that Mary shouted. And you'll notice that this whole entire thing, if it would get smaller again, this whole entire thing is in quotation marks. Whereas here, everything Fred said, every sentence is separated by a quotation mark. And at this point, and this is where you have to be careful when you're typing, this quotation mark is backwards. It's backwards because there's a space between where the quotation mark is and the I. The writer had accidentally put a space there. Therefore, it made this quotation mark backwards. Your quotation mark should always snuggle up to what is being said. Now, you also need to remember that you need to start a new paragraph each time the speaker changes. If you have a couple of people speaking to each other and you make them speak within one paragraph and you don't start a new one for each speaker, it's really confusing for the reader to figure out who is saying what. So when you write your dialogue, it should look something like this. You can be so cruel sometimes, Mary wailed. Oh, I suppose you'll go crying to Mom, Fred sighed. You said people think I smell, sobbed Mary. That's so mean. It's pretty obvious here that we're switching speakers. As you can see, it's indented each time that a new speaker begins. So we have Mary, then Fred, then Mary. And it's very clear. It's much clearer this way than it is if you had it all in one paragraph. Finally, when only two people are talking, you do not have to keep using their names. Sometimes it's really clear who is saying what. And to keep saying, Fred said, Fred yelled, Mary whined, just gets a bit repetitive. So let's just look at the rest of the conversation between Fred and Mary and see if you can figure out who is saying what, despite the fact that it doesn't say who is saying what. People don't really think you smell. They don't? Of course not. And I don't think so either. Really? Of course. You're my sister. We probably smell exactly the same. So you'll let me have a turn now? No, I'm busy. Go away. Now, it's obvious here exactly who is saying what. Since Fred started out telling Mary that she smelled, here he's trying to comfort her. So you can see, and here Mary is being comforted. So, Fred, Mary, Fred, Mary. It's very clear in the writing who is saying what. And since it's just two people, you don't consistently have to say that. So that's it. Writing dialogue is easy. Simply keep the exact words that the person is saying, along with any punctuation that sentence that they're saying needs, within the quotation marks. Change paragraphs when each speaker speaks, and sometimes you don't always have to say who is saying what because it's already clear. And that does it for me. Now go off and have some happy writing.